Welcome back to another episode of Cobra Kai Companion. I'm Peter. You guys really excited about this interview. I say it every episode, but I am legit excited. I've met this young man in person, and hopefully you guys seen him already in part one of season six of Cobra Kai. Joining me today is Brendan H. Lee. Don't forget the H uh plays Kwon. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for having me, Peter. I'm a big fan of the show. I remember when I booked the role for this, I watched like all of your interviews, so it's so sick to be on here now.
So wait, was that you? Because I was telling Daniel, I was like, one of you guys said like, "Hey, I think I'm familiar."
Yeah, I
Like
think
with your
I
channel.
think I
Was that
told you
you?
that. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wow. Well, thank you. Well, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, out of curiosity, who was the first interview you went to go check out?
Alicia, because I definitely knew she was gonna be someone I'd be working with in the first like a lot because wait, we're this is releasing like after, right? So I can say,
Correct.
all
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm one of her students. So yeah.
There you go. One of our students. So before we get into the Cobra Kai,
Mhm.
you're obviously Kwan's a brand new character and introduced into the Miyagi verse. So let's learn more about you. So there's a few things out there, and I don't think there's really clarification, but I think you are a very interesting individual.
Thank you.
As I understand it, it sounds like you started kicking before you learned how to walk.
Yes, apparently. I mean, I don't even remember it. My father is a grandmaster at a taekwondo dojang in Minnesota. So I grew up doing it my whole life. He was a three-time Korean national champion back in the 80s. And so yeah, I was kind of born into it. I don't even remember like my first class. I don't even really remember my white belt test or my black belt test, honestly. Like that's how young I was. But yeah, apparently I used to like crawl up onto a couch, like use it as leverage and be like, ah! Like kick a little bit. But yeah, I've been doing it pretty much my whole life. Martial arts is pretty much a part of me. I've never lived life without it, so I can't really imagine what life would be without it. So
Yeah.
it's like a huge honor to be on a show like this, especially because I watched the Karate Kid franchise since I was little, and yeah, just being part of
So
this legacy is crazy.
yeah, it kind of wild. We'll dive into that a little bit.
Mhm.
So Minnesota, this is where you grew up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, from Minnesota.
So you mentioned Taekwondo being such a huge part of your life. Growing
Hmm.
up in Minnesota, did you have any other interests like inside school with whether it's performance in music, theater,
Hmm.
anything like that?
What was really awesome about what I'm really grateful for my parents is they, even though like uh they had a taekwondo school and I was obviously a student there. They never like forced it down my throat, which is why I think I stuck with the training. It was purely out of passion all the time. I know like my dad's kids that have taekwondo studios, like they would force their kids to train and they would all like quit by the time they become young adults. So what was awesome is my parents always like left the door open of like try all different types of sports. So I had a basketball phase and I wanted to be an NBA player and then I played soccer and then I ran track and field in high school. I did long jump. I did 100-meter dash. I played 1 year of football. I'm trying to think. I played lacrosse 1 year. I kind of did a little bit of everything. Um so yeah, I was really really grateful for that. And my parents let me do that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, and I love that your parents didn't force you in one direction or the other. I come from a family of men that served in the military back in the old country, and
Hmm.
growing up, my dad never like forced me to enlist, but he would bring it up, and so
Mm.
that's a decision I made on my own. Was I enlisted into the military, and that made us bond even more. Like I
Oh,
made
that's
that decision
amazing,
on my
man.
own.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so
Thank you for
so
your
I can
service,
understand
man.
that. Yeah, no, it
That's
was an
awesome.
honor to serve. That's where I met my best friend that I told you about. It's Korean.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
Oh,
shout out
wow.
to Han Kuru. He's we've been
Hankuru?
friends. God, what is it now? 23 years. And any Korean question I have, I go to him. So when Alicia was announced that she's going to be playing Sensei Kim Da-eun, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, how do you pronounce this? We don't know what the pronunciation is. So
Yeah,
I had him
yeah.
come on, and we just did like a little, like he taught me how to get the accent down and stuff. And
Uh,
so
that's
yeah.
awesome.
And I think I could say this because it was shown in the end of episode 5, but we see a new Cobra Kai logo, and I was
Hmm.
like, "What does that say?" And then he read it to me, and basically it translates to co phonetically Cobra Kai, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's
that's
like
really awesome.
Cobra Kai. That's how
That's
they
what he
like
told me.
spelled
That
out. Yeah.
yeah, he
And
broke it up.
then they
Yeah.
put No Mercy, which is Mujabi.
Okay.
And you can actually, some people actually got the Easter eggs already. I saw, like, if you see on our belts, you can even see it in the trailer. It says Mujabi, which means
Mm.
no mercy in Korean. So
Okay.
it's
So
pretty cool.
that's already part of. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say like. I guess Kwon does have a moment where he kind of strikes first on Yoon, so
Mhm.
we'll get to all that too. I want to get into your psyche and your
Uh-huh.
preparation for that.
Uh-huh.
Um, so you mentioned, oh, gosh, you were so like involved with a lot of stuff too, and I'm just thinking, how do you have time for anything? Because you have a lot of like little videos out there, like
Hmm.
content in terms of like the TikToks, the Instagrams, and
Yeah.
I couldn't watch them all as much as I want to, but there's a very specific style to the things that you do, like I seen it in Sung Ho's videos as well.
Uh-huh.
There's these really well choreographed stuff, a very good cadence with some
Hmm.
humor in it too. Like you're drunken, I forget what it's called, but there's the fight in the parking lot and it looks like you're
Oh, the
peeing
Drunken
in the car
Master
at
one?
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then there's some really great
Mhm.
comedy, and also the one you did where it's about like being called a bitch, right? Like you're walking with Terrell, I think it is,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
with a
yeah. I
mask.
forgot about that one.
I love that one. That is so hilarious because
Thank you,
like
man.
your reaction, like it's so
Oh.
funny. Like it's out of
Oh,
it came out of
man.
nowhere, and I want people to see that entire clip. But I want to clip just right where you start to go like ape shit a
Go
little bit.
nuts. Yeah.
Did you
It's
talk about that video and just kind of like the idea, the concepts of how do you come up with
yeah.
some of these videos?
It's a very different type of ape shit than Quan and Cobra Kai for sure. No, first of all, thank you so much for I can tell you always do your research, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch those videos. A lot of those are like just little spontaneous test fights that we would just do. That one in particular. One of my good friends named Joseph Lay, he has his own indie film production company called Team Red Pro. And it's kind of a long story, but we both worked on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We were both on the stunt team for that, but we actually didn't work at the same time, but we knew of each other's work. I was a big fan of his work, and he told me he was moving out to LA, so we started like collaborating together. And yeah, it's just like I guess it's just part of like the we both love action comedy. We're both huge Jackie Chan fans. And Jackie Chan is always I think he, kind of made the art of what action comedy is, and he had a very specific style, very fast-paced choreography, very funny, over the top, like facial expressions and stuff. So we kind of like just tried to mess around with our own version of that while like working on our craft of fight choreography. But yeah, those are always a ton of fun. I still to this day like have some of my good friends where we just go out to this park right across the street from my place, and we call our little practice sessions breakfast club fights. And it's kind of inspired by like Michael Jordan. When he used to do the Breakfast Club for his 90s Bulls, he used to have his guys train in the morning together off season too. And so we would just do that every morning and just like film little fight scenes. Everyone would take turns choreographing and directing it, and we would kind of just like go nuts. So yeah, long answer to your question, but yeah.
No, I like the long answers, and it's very much like the like Adam Sandler and his crew, and like James Franco, Seth Rogen, and their crew, right? Like you work with the same people, you have that chemistry and that built-in dynamic, and like if it works, it works. So you
Mhm.
mentioned Joseph. What is She Blue Tufu?
Oh my goodness, this is so funny, man. This is hilarious because we've always talked about the day where we made up this word And we talked about the day that maybe we might actually have to say this publicly, what it is. Uh,
Perfect.
it's kind of just a made up word that we came up with as just our friend group, and it's kind of like YOLO, if you know what that
Okay.
means. Like you only
Yeah.
live once. It's just
Hmm.
like you can use it for anything. It's kind of just like screw it, man. Like just do it. Like don't second guess yourself. Like to screw it. Let's just go. Um, but yeah, and then we ended up like it just ended up like our friend group kind of has like our own little made up slang that we come up with, and that was the one that kept sticking. Just because it just sounds so ridiculous. So yeah, that's so funny that you brought that up. I'm like I'm laughing so hard. I'm gonna send this interview to all my friends that say that too.
Well, appreciate that. Well, I mean, it would be funny if it actually translates to something in some other language. You know, you say it sounds silly, but
It's completely made up gibberish, man. It's
it's,
ridiculous.
it means no mercy in another language.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could mean anything. You can make
Yeah.
it mean anything, you know.
So you mentioned Shang-Chi and you worked in stunt. You
Hmm.
mentioned Jackie Chan as an I'm assuming like an inspiration, right? You said you're a fan of him. I'm assuming
Hmm.
he's an inspiration. So
Hmm.
what was it that that made you go, you know what, let me give film a try? Because like stunt is a very specific thing.
Hmm.
And stunt performing is something I only just learned about through Cobra Kai, speaking with people like, oh yeah, no, I'm a stunt performer and this is the difference. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
Hmm.
stunt people do this specifically. Stunt performers have lines and can also act. And so I've only been learning about this particular craft in the last few years. But yeah, tell me
Hmm.
about like, what gave you that like that acting, that stunt bug that kind of got you started
Hmm.
actually pursuing film.
Well, like honestly, ever since I was little, I loved, especially Jackie Chan movies, but like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Bruce Lee, like n you name it. Like I remember when I was 3 years old, I broke my leg because I spent 3 hours in a row doing jump front kicks trying to copy Jackie Chan. So yeah, like I've always loved it's because of martial arts. I love martial arts because I grew up doing it, and I love martial arts movies because they were so inspiring. So I always wanted to pursue it, but I think in Minnesota, like there's not the industry's not really big out there. The main acting opportunities are like theater and Shakespeare, which I totally like respect that craft too, but at the time it didn't really interest me too much. I was like, I just want to do the cool stuff, you know? Um, but yeah, I got an opportunity to get into acting. It's kind of like a really long story. I don't know if I want to if you want me to explain the long story.
Oh, it's up to you.
Um, but I got into it at a acting studio in Minnesota called DNA Talent. My dad like self-submitted me without even telling me, which was hilarious. And I got a call randomly like, "Hey, we want you to audition." I was like, "What is this? Is this a scam?" And then I went there, found out it was legit, and did a showcase out here called the Industry Network where a lot of actors try to find we're like a bunch of casting directors, agents, and managers are trying to look for new talent. And it's kind of like a big like track and field event, but for like quote unquote Hollywood, I guess. So you do a bunch of these events, and that's where I found my agent Justine. And yeah, when I moved out here at the end of 2018, around the same time, which what was funny was I was actually going to transfer colleges, but I got declined to the school I was trying to transfer to. At the same time, I got signed by an agency out here. So I was like, I feel like the universe is telling me like I got to do this. Like I'm gonna regret if I don't, commit. So yeah, I came out here. My agent was sending me out to auditions right away. Cobra Kai was actually one of my first auditions. I think it was season 1 or 2. I don't even remember what role it was for, but I like totally like butchered that audition. It was terrible because I was so new and I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, and then there's always this gym I always wanted to go to out here that I watch YouTube videos of called Jam, Joining All Movement, and a bunch of stunt professionals and martial arts trickers go and train there. And I was like, that was like the first place I went to when I came out here because I've always been watching like YouTube videos of like the craziest trickers training there. So I was like, I have to go there. And just kind of networking with everyone there. What I loved about the stunt mentality was, with stunts, you don't really have your own agent. You kind of just pave your own path. Like it's all about the hustling, and you completely take I think like more so you take control of your own career and you just go and you shoot stuff. That's why, those test fights that you were seeing, we're just going out there. Nobody's telling us that we need to shoot anything. We're just going out and just doing it, you know. So I kind of started getting into stunts from that. And a couple months in, I got a call from Australia, from the late amazing legend Brad Allen, who was the only Caucasian member of the Jackie Chan stunt team. He action directed movies like Star Wars Solo, the Kingsman movies, and then he was the second unit director on Shang-Chi as well. And I've been watching his movies like forever. He was on all those Jackie Chan movies, like the Rush Hour ones. He was like one of the core stunt team members of that. And so he called me right when I was like at a low point in my career where I was like, maybe I shouldn't have pursued this. I'd been about a year in the industry, had gotten no results whatsoever, not even a callback, nothing. And he's like, hey, you fit our actors' measurements perfectly. We need someone that can kick. Would you want to come out to Australia? And I was like, yeah, let me check my schedule. Yes, sir. But yeah, that kind of started off everything, and I'm forever grateful for him, and everyone that I worked with there, because that kind of gave me the confidence to keep going and taught me like all of the basics of filmmaking. And for him to take his chance on this brand new kid that doesn't know anything about film, this industry at all, it was like a dream come true. So yeah, that was a very long answer, but yeah.
That's a great story. I mean, just to hear your journey, that's so funny, that connection to Cobra Kai season one you said. I would be curious to see like what role that could have been. And so like this would be a funny edit to put Miyagi box, and like it's Brandon H. Lee's like audition from part one
Yeah.
or from season one. Like hey, here it
Mhm.
is. Um, that is so
Nobody
cool.
wants
And
to
so
see that audition, man. It was probably so bad.
well, if anyone has it and just wants to like slide it into my DMs, it's open. I'll check it out and give my thoughts. But this gentleman, you said Brad Allen,
Yes, Brad Allen.
was that who Twisting Tiger was dedicated to?
Yes, he did get a special shout out at the end. Wow, you really did your research, man. This is awesome. Yeah,
Which I
he kind
watched.
of, yeah. Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
it's on YouTube.
Thank you. Yeah. He kind of jump started both Joseph and I's careers, who Joseph was the one that directed Twisting Tigers. So, um, yeah, we definitely wanted to give him a tribute. And yeah.
I really liked it. What was the filming location? Where were you guys at?
It was few locations, but it was all, majority of it was in LA, or some of the alley was in downtown LA.
Yeah.
Man, that feels like ages ago. Yeah. That was back
It
in
looked
21.
great. Like it
Thank
gave me
you.
the sense of like danger for sure.
Oh,
You know.
awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this almost like Karate Kid a little bit at the very beginning, like the reluctance to like fully train the student, and I saw little colors of it, and whether it was intentional or not, like that's what I do, and I watch and I look for these connections, intentional or not, it's just it's
Mhm.
kind of fun. Like I told Sung Ho, no, I told Daniel one of his videos that he did felt like a spiritual predecessor to like seeing Yoon in season six of Cobra Kai. So
That's
yeah,
so
it's
cool.
very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
You've done a few, and like whatever I could find, I would watch. I didn't get a chance to find Upfront or Broken, but is that your first on-screen kiss?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. That was a good
Okay.
one.
So
Um,
if I get a chance, I want to check those out. But this is what I'm really curious about, the elementals. It was well
Elementals.
done, yeah, for whatever that is. I know you were the green. element. I don't know exactly what it was. I,
Uh-huh.
I was watching it on my phone. Admittedly, I wished it was on a monitor or something so I could see, more details. But I did find the pilot. Where did I find that at? It's online. It's like 16
Uh-huh.
minutes or something like that. So yeah, I was able
Uh-huh.
to watch that.
I think that character name is Kwon too.
It was with the A, Kwon with A.
Yeah, that's insane. Isn't that like literally
It
the
is.
same thing you were just saying about Daniel, how like that this stuff is it's insane how all that kind of like it like lines up together. It reminds me of something that if I don't know, have you listened to Ralph Macchio's book?
His memory, yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
4 times.
Yeah, it's so good, man. It was so good.
Very good.
I was listening to that as we were shooting and like asking him all the questions I could about it. But I remember he was saying how for every actor it feel like everything, what is it? I'm totally butchering the quote, but it was something along the lines of like everything happens for a reason. Like you will book every role that is meant for you. And like kind of like, I mean, I'm still very new to the industry, but now it's been about 5 or 6 years now. And like kind of looking at my path and my credits, it's like, and you can do this with almost every actor, and you kind of see how one perfectly leads into the other. It's just, it's beautiful to kind of see the journey. It's kind of crazy too. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary almost,
Is
but
that
yeah.
that might be the same chapter where he's talking about how he went out to lunch to talk about possibly the lead for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It was and then it ultimately goes to a Canadian because he,
Yeah.
like he wasn't like American enough or something because he was too like East Coast or whatever
Hmm.
the quote was. Yeah, I,
Hmm.
I kind of vaguely remember something like that, but it sounds like sometimes your roles choose you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. They really do. It really feels like it. Even for Quan too. Like, I remember after the first day of shooting, I was like lying in bed, just like so ridiculously grateful. And this is my first like professional, acting role. And I made the commitment to quit stunts and go fully into acting about 3 years ago now, and those were probably felt like the longest 3 years of my life. Just like constantly like second guessing myself, oh, maybe I should stick with stunts. But then I just like lied there and I was like, every little like every day, every step I took of like doing all these things that I didn't think mattered, mattered. Like it all led up to this moment and it paid off. So it was like yeah. I don't know what made me think of that, but yeah, it's just like I think it's not even just with actors. I think it's with all of us as human beings. We have our own individual journeys and it's every step happens for a reason.
I think so. I mean, look where we are now. Like I never would have guessed that, I'd be talking to like the new bad guy of season 6 or whatever. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't take any of these interviews for granted, like I approach every single one like, well, I may not get this one. And if I do, great. If not, I'll try somebody else, and that's just I like to get these stories out there. Everybody has a journey. You shared your incredible one, and
Thank you.
to have your insight as well going through this, the struggles, like nothing's handed to any of us,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm a day oneer, and some people think maybe these interviews are automatic. Like, no, I hustle.
Hmm.
I reach out to agents and PR, and I get
Hmm.
turned down pretty often, actually. But
Hmm.
that doesn't stop me from trying.
Hmm.
And as long as John Josh and Hayden want to tell stories, I'm going to continue covering this stuff, even if it's like other properties. So
Yeah.
you kind of teased it earlier, growing up with like Karate Kid. So like
Uh-huh.
paraphrasing a little bit. So what is your history with the Karate Kid franchise? So like the
Hmm.
movies, which ones did you watch? Which characters did you like? And how much of
Uh,
Cobra Kai? It sounds like you
yeah.
were kind of familiar with this since day one. So, but all the Karate Kid stuff first.
Yeah, I watched them all, but I watched them when I was really, really little. I definitely gotta rewatch them again now because I feel like it's gonna hit different because I met all of the actors and work with them and like to see them on screen back in the 80s is gonna be insane. But uh definitely like the first one um like stands out to me the most, like just Daniel LaRusso's arc and you know, uh, like standing up for himself, being the new kid on the block, um, and like standing up for himself against, the biggest bully on the block at the time. Um,
So let me
but
stop you
yeah,
right there real quick. It
yeah.
sounds like, in your words, it sounds like Johnny was the bully in that first movie.
You know, at the time, but me as Quan now, and I've talked to Billy about this. Like I totally see his point of view too, like yeah, I don't know. I don't
It's all
know.
perspective, right?
It's all
It's a point of
perspective.
view.
And that's what I love about how what Cobra Kai did so well is to show the other point of view. Because back in the 80s, 80s had the 80s movies had its own like it had its own style back then, and it was very like very clear storytelling.
Black or
Like
white,
this is the
right?
good guy, this is the bad guy, But now it's like they just do that so well. But yeah, no, I definitely resonated with the story so much with Daniel LaRusso's character. Me growing up, I was always like, I mean, I have a older brother who's 3.5 older than me, 3.5 years older than me, and he was always way bigger than me. So whenever I'd spar him, I'd just get my butt whooped, like, and I was always like the youngest. Um, so I knew what it felt like to be the underdog. So any story like that just gave me so much like inspiration to just train that much harder. And yeah, it's just an incredible legacy. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like I think this goes without saying, but it sounds like
Mhm.
your parents are very supportive with
Mhm.
whatever you wanted to do because like the martial arts was always there. And something you said earlier kind of reminded me of something that Kyler told Miguel in episode 2. It's just like, the safety net will always be there, right? Like the safe is always going to be safe, but like YOLO, like go out and pursue what you actually want
Mm.
because like it doesn't hurt to try and
Yeah.
just kick yourself in the butt if you never gave it a shot and
Yeah.
and like the what if, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's gonna stick with you forever. Like what if,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
See,
Yeah,
that's a
so
perfect time where you could use Chablis to her. Like, just get
for
it.
real.
But it's crazy. I haven't seen episode two. I haven't even read the script for it, so I had no clue what you were talking about, but you explained it
Okay.
just now, so now I know. At the
That's
time of this recording, I had no clue what
that's
happened.
wild. That's wild.
Um,
Hey, come on over. We'll watch the screeners together.
yeah, yeah. Oh
You
man.
should do. I mean, because like if you don't want to talk about the podcast, I know like it's something you did
Uh-huh.
start at one point, and
Uh-huh.
and you have your other platforms as well. But I
Uh-huh.
know Dallas is over there reacting to the trailers. Like what? Well, why can't we see Brandon reacting to the episodes also?
Oh
Or
yeah, yeah.
sequences.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then
thank
maybe we
you.
can get like a Dallas versus Brandon reaction video.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
So after auditioning for season 1 of Cobra Kai and
Mm,
for lack of a better phrasing, like getting passed on for that, would
hmm
you continue to watch the show thereafter before getting the role on?
1000%.
Yeah.
1000%. It might have been season two then. I can't even remember. And I can't tell you what role it is. Now there's gonna be like a comment war, I feel like, where everyone's like, I bet it was this role. I bet it was this role. Um,
And just to throw it out there with
yeah.
my interview with Josa, who played Kyler,
Uh-huh.
we learned that Kyler was not asked to be Korean. It just happened to be Joe auditioned for a role as a
Yeah.
Korean American and got the role. So
Yeah.
if anyone was all like, "Oh, it was probably Kyler," we don't know that
Yeah, yeah. You know
because
what's
Kyler
funny
could have
is
been Caucasian.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't think it was that character. Yeah, it could have been any character. I do remember what's funny though is I remember having dinner with a lot of like the main kids cast. I shouldn't call them kids. They're like around my age. We call them kids in the show, but the
For
teens.
sure.
And I think I pulled up the casting like list for it. And I remember Tori Payton was auditioning at the same time. So it was around that time. And I think the descriptions had nothing to do with like the characters that actually like it was like they changed their mind. So I mean the casting process, it's like you never like a lot of times the casting directors and the producers or whatever, they're figuring it out on the go. So like yeah, yeah, I guess they're just trying to clear the air on like, oh, it could have been this, it could have been that. Like, yeah, no, I think it's just
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
we won't know, you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned kind of like hanging out with the other kids. Let's call them
Uh-huh.
kids, right? Because right now the characters are all about 17 years old.
Yeah.
Um, we so some of us for the first time saw you in, I believe it was like Mary and Sholo's stories, Instagram stories when you guys were watching Tanner's movie.
Oh,
Kind of
whoa,
remember
that
that?
got out there.
Yeah, a couple of the stories. So people were like screen shooting it and putting it out there, like, "Hey, who's this? You were one of those guys," and I was
Yeah.
just all like, "Oh, you know." But it wasn't like a regular post, so like after 24 hours, it's gone, right? So
Yeah.
can you kind of share being the new guy for this
Uh-huh.
final season? What was it like? Kind of being, I guess, welcomed by them and
Hmm.
like the creators of the show and also like the legacy actors.
Hmm. This is where I gotta get careful because my main interactions with them is like in part
Ah,
two.
okay.
But I'll keep it broad. Definitely like every single one of them, the main cast, the crew, like everyone, most of them have been there from day one, even the crew. They just they welcomed us all with such big open arms and just like they were, I'd been a fan of the show since season one, so I was like geeking out to the fact that I get to even meet these guys. And I, had this image of like how awesome I think they are from watching interviews like yours that you're having with them. And then when I met them, they're even cooler than that. I was like, oh my goodness, you guys are the coolest people in the world. Immediately, like, you know, they were open to like, hanging out outside of work all the time, even though we spend all day with each other. They're still like, wanting to hang out and stuff. And, you know, Cobra Kai, I think, has like one of the biggest cast lists of all time. So I'm sure, like, if I was them, they're the main cast. They've seen so many actors come in and out. Like, I feel like by season six, they got to be so bored of new kids coming in. You know what I mean? So, I mean, to me, I'm like, for them to still be so welcoming and I'm like so happy that I get to call them like, good friends now. I pick their brains so much. It was such a amazing first gig to book because they're all around my age, but they're also way more experienced than I am. So kind of just like getting thrown into this huge legacy of a show and just like this jumpstart of my career to be able to like pick their brains of that is like something you could never really like get anywhere else. So yeah, all of them have just been so welcoming. We still hang out whenever we can and whatever, but yeah, I think definitely we got to do another one of these when 6 through 10 comes out because
Oh yeah.
there's way more stories
Oh
for the
sure.
second part, but yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I would love that.
Mhm.
You talk about like kind of geeking out. I did the same
Yeah.
coming on set, meeting you guys. So kind of like pull the curtain back a little bit
Uh,
of like kind of what I was experiencing that day. And for those that are tuning in, like I can't go into like too much details because that was from part
that was
two.
this part two, yeah.
Yeah, the part two. So that won't be out yet. And I won't even be able to share those pictures until like part two,
Way
or
later,
or
yeah.
at the very least, like the reveal of where we were at, like in a
Yeah.
trailer or whatever they put out. But when I arrived on set
Hmm.
and you guys were kind of prepping, I think I saw you and Sung Ho kind of walk past me, or maybe Daniel, but it was some of you guys, and I thought nothing of it. Just like, hey, just some people walking right by. And Kyle's like, oh, there's a new character in season six that you're is going to be a fan favorite. He's already one of mine, and like his name is Kwon. I was like, oh, I like that. And
Uh,
then I see John later, and John's like, hey, yeah, we got this new character. We've never written anybody like this before, and you're gonna love him because he's like Young Chosen. And I immediately went to the last time we saw Young Chosen, which was in season five,
hmm.
as a boy. And I'm thinking, hey, a kid, all right. And he might have read my face, but he's like, Karate Kid 2. I'm like, oh hell yeah, because I'm a
Yeah.
huge Chosen fan from
Yeah,
Karate Kid
yeah.
2. And
Yeah.
so the little bit that I saw of you guys' sequence, I was just
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I see it. I see it. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I got the screeners and I watched it, I go, hell yeah, like fucking yeah, let's fucking go. You're like all of those. I was just like, this is
Uh-huh.
this is this is what I've been waiting for because
Oh man.
I love me some Chosen, but when he was reintroduced in season three, I was like, yes, I mean he's older. It's not the way I remember. It's fine.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
he's like more wise now and not as
yeah, he's
aggressive.
a little bit too wise for my liking. But then in season five, we got some badass scenes like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
episode two where he takes takes on like six all Valley senseis or Valley
Yeah.
senseis rather, and then like his fight with Terry
Like
Silver.
Terry, yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah. And so to see Kwon, I
Uh-huh.
really like that. So
Uh-huh.
this this goes into like if you can talk about your audition and
Mm-hmm.
what were they looking for in the character of Kwon,
Mm-hmm.
and was there any changes? Like did they see Brandon and go, oh, let's make this change because we like this quality of Brandon's?
Mm-hmm. So this is a really funny story, I think. So I auditioned for this show April of 2023. I didn't
So
start
before the
shooting,
strikes.
yes, before the strike. I didn't find out I booked the role until January of 2024.
Oh my gosh.
So I remember I sent in a self-tape and they seemed like they really liked it. And actually, this is crazy. Their feedback was to bring in a little bit of more, think Karate Kid 2 Chosen, like make them
Okay.
a little darker. Because actually, apparently I think I can say this. The big three is John told me that what they were
Oh yeah.
worried about at first was like, can he be a big enough douchebag? Like he seems too nice. Like I guess they saw my slate and they thought I seemed too nice of a guy. But then, you know, I thought of Chosen and I wanted to rewatch it, but I also didn't want to influence what I was already doing too much because I didn't want to just copy him. But I just remember there was just this badass swag to Chosen, and I kind of try to like channel my own like version of that. And yeah, they liked it. And then I remember the next day, which is the fastest I've ever heard, they put me on an unofficial pin, which means like maybe it's narrowed down to you and a couple people, but because of the upcoming strike, potentially at the time, they were like, we can't, say anything. We can't, lock you in. So the whole 8 months, I was like waiting for the strike to end. The strike ended, I think, in the fall. I was like, what? There's no way. They're gonna call me soon, right? Before the holidays. Nothing. I was like, oh my God, this happens again. Like there's been so many times I've gotten to this point for a big role and didn't get it. So I was like, this is another one of those. I really thought this was it. I felt like this role was perfect for me. And then I got the call from it. And what was so funny was throughout each phase of this, my my agent Justine would call me like, "Hey, you're going on to this stage. You're going on to this stage." And I would just like because I'd been to this point like a few times now, I was trying not to get my hopes up. So she's like, "Are you seriously not excited?" I'm like, Justine, we've been to this point so many times. I'm trying not to get excited." And so like each time, and then when I finally booked it, when she called me, I had the stomach flu.
Oh
And
no.
I was like dying in bed, like so sick. And she calls me and she's like, "You booked it." And I was like, "Woohoo." And she's like, "Are you serious, Brandon? Are you seriously not happy?" And I'm like, "No, I'm really happy, but I'm just like dying from the stomach flu right now." And she's like, "Oh, well, you better be okay in a week because you're gonna fly out to Atlanta." And I was like, "I should be good." Um, so yeah, that was kind of like that process. But no, it was super it's super cool that I think a lot of people already from just the trailer at the time that we're recording this are seeing the parallels between Kwon and Chosen and like, Yuji, I got to meet and work with him and talk with him a lot and for him to be someone who as an Asian actor paved the path for us from way long ago and to be able to pick his brain and yeah, I remember one day on set he pulled up a picture from him in Karate Kid 2 and put one right next to me and I was like, "Whoa, like we kind of have a really similar aura." And it made us think like, what if what if these two threw down, What if these two fought? Like if there was a time machine or something, that'd be crazy to see, but yeah,
It kind of
definitely definitely took influence from him, but also try to put my own flavor on it to in respects to him as well. Yeah.
absolutely. I cannot wait to see what everyone else thinks because I'm just like, hell yeah, Don was right. Like there hasn't been a character like this, and we've been used to the same people flip-flopping between dojos. It's nice
Hmm.
to have somebody completely brand new. This is just the bad guys. and these are the guys you're supposed to root against. But like with Sung Ho and Daniel, I'm just like I'm Miyagi though. Like I got the Lotus tattoo on my arm, you see. But I'm like,
Uh-huh.
can I sit at your guys' table? Like I want to join you. You know, like like don't worry.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm my like I'm still loyal to Miyagi Do, but you
Yeah.
guys, um, it- I talk about representation, in the lack thereof, uh,
Mm-hmm.
for AAPIs and then Cobra Kai. Like we had Nate and like Yuji came in season 3, but that was like one and a half, like just a little over one episode. It's finally like we got like a whole ass like Team
Mm-hmm.
Korea, which is
Yeah.
really really cool to see, and I'm a
Mm-hmm.
little bit drawn more like to your guys' characters
Mm-hmm.
because of like just looking like me on screen. We don't see enough
Mm-hmm.
of it, so there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something to that. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, season 6 just might be like the time I root for the bad guys for once. Like
Who
hey,
knows,
it's like
man?
it's not it's these are characters at the end of the day. These aren't
Yeah.
real people, so like nobody should really get offended. You
Uh-huh.
know, but I mentioned this in my full spoiler season 6 review that should be out if people are
By the
tuning in
time this
now.
comes, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned that my buddy and I who sat in the review with me, we had lunch with Yuji. Actually, I think this might have been the first time we met Yuji in person at his restaurant in Seattle. And I
Mm.
asked him like, hey, like Karate Kid 2 was commercially successful, but critically, people kind of poo-pooed it. Like, what do you think it was? And
Mm.
he said like there were no cobras in it, no Cobra Kai. And I was like, huh, interesting.
Oh.
So like, I'm not saying this is that, but what if there was a discussion like, well, let's do that. Let's like, what if Karate Kid 2 had Cobra Kai in it? Then boom, we got Team Korea. And like you are
Whoa.
kind of somewhat chosen, and so we're kind of seeing that, right? Like
Yeah.
season 5 to begin season 5 of Cobra Kai, it's what if Terry Silver and Cobra Kai won the All Valley?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of getting some what ifs out of the way. Like I kind of like to look at it that way, and I can't wait to see what you guys have for us in parts 2 and 3. Um, okay, so growing up with knowing about the Karate Kid movies,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like being directed by Ralph Macchio?
Dude, oh my goodness. This was crazy. I remember Daniel and I when we flew in, we went and
Daniel
visited the
Kim.
set. Yeah, Daniel Kim, who plays Yoon, my partner in crime. We the moment we flew in, we went and visited the set. Um, and we met Ralph, and like, man, I don't get starstruck by many people, but Ralph freaking Macchio, the Karate Kid, like, how can you not, especially as a lifelong martial artist, not get starstruck? Um, we met him, and he was super, super nice from the beginning. I was like, when I saw on the call sheet that he was directing this episode, I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, and
No
then
pressure.
when, yeah, right. And then we meet him, get this, we meet him and he's like, yeah, this is my directorial debut. And I was like, oh my God, I can't fuck this up. Oh, wait, can I swear on here? Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking that in my head. I was like, first of all, I'm really nervous because this is my first like big acting role. And second, I'm getting directed by Ralph Macchio. And now he's telling me this is his directorial debut. I can't ruin his freaking legacy, you know? But dude, like the moment like did the first shot, he Marty, like everyone there, especially him and Marty, because I've been watching their movies since, I was born pretty much to work with them. It just kind of hit me in waves because they were so humble and so welcoming and like it didn't feel like, oh my God, that's Ralph Macchio. Oh my God, that's, Marty, Martin Cove. Like it felt like we were just like collaborating and bouncing off of each other. And then it would hit me in waves. I'd just be standing there. I'd be staring at them, be like, "Oh my God, that's Ralph Macchio." You know what I mean? But they don't make you feel like, "Oh, I'm the Karate Kid. Listen to me." You know what I mean? Like they're so welcoming, and I think that was huge for me because that gave me the confidence to just kind of do my thing and gave me freedom to just like be okay with being ballsy and being risky with my character because I think Kwon definitely needed that, any bad guy that has swag, you gotta kind of send it all the way, So
Go all in.
Yeah, you gotta go all in, no mercy.
That's right.
Yeah, no.
Was there anything in particular that Ralph said lean into that more? You know, because I'm kind of curious about him as a director.
Um, you know what was so awesome about Ralph was because he's an actor, he was such an actor's director. He was so good at balancing getting exactly what he wants, but speaking it in kind of like actor language. Because I think a lot of directors will just be like, be more sad. And you're like, okay, why? You know, like us as actors, we kind of need justification. He was always so good at like explaining it in a way where it makes sense to you. Um, and so that's what was so awesome. I do remember one moment he, this was like the coolest thing ever. It was like I think it was my coverage, and it was the part that Kreese like comes up to me and he's like, "Quan, is it?" You know, and we kind of have that like that's the one that's in the trailer, like staring each other down. And Alicia was off camera, so Ralph read Alicia's lines, and I was just thinking like, "Oh my God, I'm acting with Ralph Macchio and Marco. This is insane." But I do remember in that moment, like I think I was giving a more like I kind of like in my head when Kreese is approaching Quan, I wanted to show that Quan isn't afraid of Kreese at all. He thinks like, who the heck is this old white dude to tell me what to do? Like he probably doesn't even know how to throw a kick, you know what I mean? Like those are the thoughts that I'm having in my mind to balance the oh my God, that's Martin Cove in front of me. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the only thing that's keeping me in the scene. Um and I think that's when Ralph and I really built that chemistry because he was gaining confidence in my ability at that time and was like, okay, I'm really hitting the nail with you here, but can you also show a little bit of like, oh, this guy's serious? Like maybe I can't take this guy on, like a little bit of fear, but you still got to have that swag, you know? And it was like a really like hit on the nail moment. That I'm not sure because I haven't watched it yet if they use that take, but I do remember that moment and I do remember after that like Ralph and I felt like the chemistry was there and I think it all goes to just how amazing he was with the communication with all of his actors, you know.
Now, being mindful of what we may learn about Quan in parts two and three, are you able to share if you were given any backstory
Mhm.
of Quan, or did you make up any of your own leading into what we see of him in Wonder Woman?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what's crazy too is this kind of leads to another onset story, but I had no clue how many episodes I was going to be in, Quan was going to be in, what arc he had. All of my audition sides were in episode 3. So I had no clue like what was going to happen later, and I can't say what happens later because that's all part 2 and 3. But yeah, like I kind of had to create my own backstory, and I think some of his backstory I gotta be careful here. You guys will find out. You guys will
Yeah.
find out
Okay.
whether or not it will be revealed or not. But yeah, I think as actors, we do have to, especially a show as big as Cobra Kai, when you're given the audition sides, they can't like. I remember they gave me dummy sides and told me my scene was with Kreese, but they didn't have Kreese on there. And
Mm.
then when I did my callback with the big three, they said, "Oh yeah, this guy's Kreese, by the way." And I was like, "Oh, that changes everything." Um, but yeah, what was funny was as we were shooting episode 3, Hayden was on set, one of the creators of Cobra Kai, and he would pull me aside like every time he could, like whether when I was like off camera or whatever, and would kind of tell me my character's arc. And what was so funny was like every time he was about to get to a really good part, they would be like, Brandon, we need you on set. And I'd be like, oh my God. And then I was kind of like, giving him a hard time because I was like, you've given me this same feeling on my TV when I watch Netflix. Every time there's a cliffhanger at the end of the episode, and I'm like, dang it, now I have to wait for the next part. Like that same feeling he did to me in person, which I just found it was hilarious. So, yeah. That kind of answers your question without answering it because I'm not allowed to answer it
Oh
fully.
yeah, no, it's fine. I've been covering the show since the beginning, so like
Uh-huh.
I have heard how John, Josh, and Hayden tiptoe around questions by answering them without actually giving anything away.
Yeah.
You've already mentioned the big three like twice. Now, is that something you picked up from my interview with Alicia, or is that something from on set?
Oh, the name,
Yeah,
the
just call
big
yeah,
three.
referring to them as the big three.
I think like I think from the interviews, yeah.
Okay.
I think I mean that's what everyone kind of calls them, I think. Or did you nickname them that? You gave him
Yeah.
that nickname?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's crazy. That's such a good
Yeah.
nickname. That's such a good one.
So the funny thing is, Jacob also used it in one of my interviews with him, and it sounds like it was something that like he may have heard on set as well. But I like at the very least, like in one of my episodes, I
Uh-huh.
mentioned it in season one, and
Yeah.
then in one of my interviews with John and Josh, I think it was without Hayden. They kind of said like, "Hey, that really caught on," and I threw that on
Mm.
as a stinger at the end of their interview
Oh,
where he's giving me the credit. So I'm like, there it is, got it.
that's
Oh yeah.
so cool.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm
No,
always
they
interested, like when people say, like, where did you hear that? Just kind of curious.
yeah,
You know,
no, I from my memory, we kind of just referred to them as that, like all of the cast and crew. So
nice.
yeah, that's so cool that to find out that
Yeah.
you were a big part in that.
And well, shout outs to my friends at Are You Karate Kidding Me? Another podcast. They
Ooh.
coined Miyagi Verse. So anytime you hear Miyagi
Oh.
Verse, that was them. So
Wow, that's so
yeah,
cool. Nice,
it
man.
and Miyagi Verse is like anything with Mr. Miyagi in it. So that's why
Uh-huh.
like the Jackie Chan version that's not considered because there's no Mr. Miyagi, and
Oh.
the next Karate Kid has Mr. Miyagi and Hilary Swank. That's why that's considered canon.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
That's
really
so
interesting
cool.
stuff coming out,
Yeah.
and we're talking about episode three. Like, do
Uh-huh.
you know the? I guess it's an unfair question because you're part of the show, so never mind.
Uh-huh.
Because they make the next Karate Kid reference with the Miyagi's mystery box, like calling him Kisuki. That
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Kisuki is a name that he was introduced as in the next Karate Kid. But
Dude,
in
that's
the
so
first movie,
crazy.
we find out in translation that it's actually Nariyoshi.
Yeah.
So they're trying to explain that away in six, it seems like. So it'll be
Wow.
very interesting. So
That's
this is what
so
we do,
cool how
man.
they do
So
all those little
welcome
Easter
to the
eggs.
fandom.
Yeah, that's
So
so cool.
so
Wow.
we talked a little bit about you kind of mentioned like the trailer that came out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Tell me what you remember from the fans reaction and reception when I made that video of like who's the new guy,
Yeah,
because
dude.
the trailer came out and everyone loved the trailer and I'm like
Yeah.
nobody is questioning who's the Asian guy. I'm like what is going on? So I
Yeah.
felt like I had to make something because
Dude.
you guys needed
Yeah.
a little bit of a highlight too.
Uh-huh. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that edit, by the way. That was
I
super cool,
just needed
super cool.
I just needed the trailer to drop. I already had all your videos ready and I just
Oh,
needed something of Kwon
to
from the
put that in the
trailer and
beginning.
it was boom, it was ready. So I
Nice.
stay ready.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. No, the reactions have been so cool. Like, you know what's funny? Again, I didn't know if I was gonna be in the trailer. Like, I knew it was dropping, but I had no clue if I was gonna be in it or not. So I just like I remember I woke up that morning and I look at my phone and it's just blowing up. And I was like, I think that means I must have been in the trailer. So I watched it and I was like, this trailer is so sick. And then I shortly after I saw the video you posted and like yeah, dude, it's the social media has been going has been going crazy. Like I'm so grateful that, you know, fans like yourself and like everyone's just been the big fan base has just been so welcoming and I've barely been shown so far. Like it was literally like 3 seconds, but it was like super cool 3 seconds. But yeah, man, it's just like it's been overwhelming how awesome the feedback has been and it's like I said before, me as a fan of the show, I don't know how welcoming I would be if a new character is coming because I'm like, oh my gosh, another new character. You know what I mean? Like, but everyone's been so welcoming, so super grateful for that, and super grateful for your your awesome posts and yeah.
Oh yeah, well thank you. Yeah, it's you guys are the new shiny toy. It's just like when Tori was introduced, you were like, what? Who's the new badass that's gonna
Yeah.
fight Miguel or whatever. Like I kind
Yeah,
of forget
yeah.
the trailer, but it's just one of those like, oh, what is that? What is that? Like we're so used to following Robbie, Sam, Miguel, Dimitri,
Yeah.
and Hawk. It's like, all right, who else is there? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
is that it? And so going worldwide, it just makes sense to introduce some international people.
Mhm.
So, can you tell me about the day Daniel Kim almost died?
I'm sure, I guess he talked about this, huh?
It came up.
Well, there were two instances, and both of them were my fault.
You know,
Uh,
it's the pressure of having Ralph direct you. You know, it's
yeah, I think I just kind of went method and turned into Quan and just kind of want. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Um, I don't know which instances he brought up, but the first one was in the trailer when I kicked the board.
oh, okay.
Did he say this one?
No, the it was the shoulder.
Yeah, that's another one. So the
Yeah.
first one, I kicked the board and he was standing like where the board was flying, and it
Okay.
like grazed his hair. And this, keep in mind, this is our first shot. Like this is the first shot ever that we've shot on this show, and I almost killed my castmate.
My gosh.
um, but yeah, like it was just, I think it was just a miscommunication on like placements and stuff like that. And I didn't know it was gonna go flying like that. Like I didn't know it was gonna break like that. It went like
Yeah.
I
You
didn't
guys
know
can't
how fragile.
control where the board splinters off, right? So,
Yeah. The second instance, it might have been the second day when we did the fight, was at night. It's the final kick, the front flip, the Webster axe kick. The front
why is it
flip
called
axe
that?
kick.
Yeah,
Webster
because
is like
he
called the
said,
one-legged front flip, and then axe
oh,
kick is a downward kick. But I mean, dude, there's so many different names for kicks, so it's like that's what we call it anyways.
okay.
Um, yeah, for some reason I kept during rehearsals, I was like hitting my mark perfectly, but for some reason I kept like curving like midair when I was flipping. And so we were like running out of time and I was gassed at this point. Like keep in mind, we had been shooting all day. It's been 30 degrees all day
Oh,
and we're supposed to act like it's summertime and like we were just cranking this fight out and like not getting many breaks. I'm like pounding liquid IV to make sure I don't cramp. Um and when we shot that final kick, I remember asking the camera guy to back up a little more so I could like properly stack the kick, which means like selling it for camera so you don't actually have to kick the person. Um, so when I flipped, I felt something and I hit him on the way down, but it was, thank God, it was my non-kicking leg. And it was like the gnarliest, like the craziest sound. And he took it straight to the floor. And like it was like you could hear a pin drop, like it was dead silent. And I was like, oh shoot, like I just knocked him out. But I'm like, I if there's anything I remember from stunts, if you hit someone for real, do not ruin the take by saying like, "Oh, I'm so sorry" before cut because now they can't use that take. So I just stayed in character. I remember I like picked up the patch and was like, "This is mine," and like spit on the floor. And I was like, I'm waiting for Ralph to say cut, and he said cut. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And he took it like a champ. Um, I felt so bad. But it's crazy. We both like still don't know to this day how I hit him with my non-kicking leg because it kind of makes no sense with the movement. And I should have hit him with my like if you're in the way of my non-kicking leg, you're definitely gonna get hit by my kicking leg. But thank goodness he didn't get hit by that. I think he might have dodged it last second or something. But I remember Ralph was like, "Oh my God, do we have to call the hospital?" Like, but no, he took it like a champ, and I don't think I hit him too hard.
it's not a Karate Kid production without like something kind of going wrong with the stunts, right? Like we all know
Yeah,
about the kick that Johnny gives Daniel like before Miyagi saves him, right?
yeah,
With the Cobras, like Ralph got kicked pretty hard there.
yeah,
Sean
yeah,
Caden's been hospitalized during
yeah.
Karate Kid Part 3 and almost
Yep.
got replaced with the actual Brendan Lee, who was
Oh
actually
yeah,
on set.
yeah.
So I have that story out there with
That's
Sensei William
crazy.
Christopher Ford. So
Yeah,
it happens, and
yeah,
like within stunt and thank goodness that all you guys have like experience in Taekwondo and like you guys kind of know about like the blocking and positioning and just things of this nature whereas
Hmm.
like some of the other people they may not be as privy to it. G- the kicks that you do, w- what is it about them that like that seems to be your thing, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. Like where
Hmm.
did that come from?
I mean, Taekwondo, I think the art itself, the martial art itself, is kind of known for its kicks.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of always been my my thing, I guess. And I from a young age, I was always interested in like the acrobatic stuff from watching the Jackie Chan movies. And I remember there was this big demo team, a taekwondo team called the K Tigers, and they would do like all these crazy flips and kicks and stuff. So I've always like found the most interest in that stuff. And I think I kind of got my dad's genes. I remember when he used to fight in the 80s, I think he was called like it was his nickname was something along the lines of like long right leg or something because you would always think that you're not in striking distance, but his legs were so long that he would hit you and be like, "Oh, what the heck?" Like, and I think, I kind of got his body structure where I kind of have long legs, so it kind of gives it a certain aesthetic. But yeah, it's always been my biggest, I guess, martial. That's like the only thing I really trained growing up, mostly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think your very first post on your Instagram is you doing the bottle cap challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
dude, you really do your research. I forgot about that one.
so it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So if you could describe what you actually do, because I think I've only seen one other person do that. I think it was like a female martial artist that
Uh-huh.
did that, and it's pretty dope. And I just love people putting like a different spin on just kicking the bottle cap in slow mo. But you do a pretty good move there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was like I mean there were two different bottle cap challenges, but this one that you're referring to was the one where you put it on top of like a kicking bag and then when you kick the bag, it like f makes the bottle fly in the air and then you kick it in the air. So I hit it with a roundhouse kick, it flew up and then I tornado kicked it. Um yeah, I remember seeing that challenge go viral and I was like, let me do my version of this, you know what I mean? Um but yeah, yeah. Then there's also the one where you kick the cap off. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Like Donnie Yen and Jason Statham did that one too. I did that
I
one as well.
I think it was on mic with Daniel Kim where it just kind of came out. Oh, because he talked about being a fan of Donnie Yen, and I go,
Oh.
oh, I love his bottle cap challenge. It was so cool.
Hmm.
Like he does, this move and then does the kick, and it's just like so flawless and just really really smooth.
Hmm.
His movements. Now as Kwon, let's talk about sort of his appearance. Can
Hmm.
you give us insight on the hairstyle? Because
Hmm.
a lot of videos I've seen is kind of the hairstyle you're rocking now. So that I believe that's your the Brandon hair. So can you
Yeah.
talk about um Kwon's hair and also just what it was like to kind of put on the Cobra Kai threads, especially what we saw him wear, the black gi at the end of episode 5.
Yeah. Well, I think it's almost similar to Hawk in a way where Kwan's hair is so like out there that it really is a huge part in like his character. I think like hair, makeup, wardrobe, and hair does a lot for every character, but like characters like this in particular is like it's kind of like a statement, you know? You can't like unsee it. And that all that credit goes to Frank. Um, oh no, sorry,
Right,
Frank's
this costume.
costume. Kevin Edwards. Um, and I think this is his first season working on Cobra Kai.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it's funny is like I remember when we came to set. This is the same day we visited Ralph and like came and just visited the set before we shot, and we came to get our haircuts. And I think they brought us in, and Kevin's Kevin's note was just edgy and badass, and he was like, okay, I'll just try my version of that." And for me, growing up in the Midwest, I had my fair share of terrible haircuts growing up because I think a lot of people don't know how to work with Asian hair, especially. So I always only go to like an Asian hairstylist usually. So I was like seeing this like older white guy, and I'm like, oh God. You know, and he made me regret that so much. But I'm not gonna lie, as he was cutting it, and I was like, oh no, what is he doing? Because it's like it's really specific for that hairstyle. And he told me, but then he told me he's like going for an anime look, and I was like, I love anime. I can't wait to see what you got. And yeah, it kind of gives me like a Sasuke from Naruto vibe a little bit, or almost like a
Well,
Gohan or like a, you know what I mean, like Gohan from Dragon Ball Z.
you did a Naruto Legend, was it Legend of the Drunken Fist there? I watched that one
Oh
too, where you
yeah.
got,
Yeah,
did you have
yeah.
contacts in? Right? You had
Yeah,
contacts and
colored
like
contacts. Yeah,
green
yeah,
wig.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we did that one too. I forgot about that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I
Um,
also watched. That's also out there.
uh-huh.
Pretty sure I saw that one on YouTube.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that one's Josh Maybe directed that, and his YouTube channel Rogue Origins, I believe. And yeah, and then Jackie Tran plays Rock Lee in that
Rocky.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um
The uh Juan's hair, it kind of I would need to do a side by side. It kind of reminds
uh
me of Jin from Tekken.
yeah, that too. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, no, definitely Jin. Definitely Jin too. He's almost like Hwarang swag from Tekken, but with Jin hair. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
See that.
but yeah, no, that was like a really a big learning lesson for me because I remember I'd always hear interviews on like how actors say how much hair and wardrobe does for them to get into character. And this was like my first like one where I was like, whoa, like I don't feel like Kwon until Kevin puts a whole bottle of hairspray in my hair and does his magic, and I look in the mirror and see this douchebag in front of me. I'm like, okay, now I'm Quan. You know what I mean? Um, it's just kind of like I don't know. I would always kind of laugh about it too. Like whoever's wearing this, whoever would want this hairstyle, like no judgment, but like you kind of have an edge to you, you know? Like you're kind of making a
You gotta
statement, you
live up to
know?
the hair.
Yeah, you kind of have like you're kind of sassy, you know. You kind of you think you run this shit, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Now,
definitely did a lot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Going back to what John said about like, I don't know, can this guy be, like a douche or whatever the words that he was using? How
Hmm.
fun is it to play Quan? Because like this, from the stuff I've seen you do, this isn't something that you're used to, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, it was so much fun. Um, yeah, exactly. Like you said, like usually I never really play a bad guy. Like even my auditions, I never get the bad guy. I usually get like a good guy, like the guy that's super soft and like, you know what I mean? Suits too nice or whatever. But yeah, no, this was like a bad guy role. And like what was so fun about playing him was first of all, the writers did an amazing job writing this character, and his lines are just so like they're so douchey
Yeah,
already that it gives you so much freedom to really deliver it any way you want as long as you commit. And like I experimented, that's what gave me so much confidence and freedom on set was I would just experiment with so many different ways delivering his lines. And because it's written so well, he comes off as like that guy no matter what. Like even if I deliver his line genuinely, like I'm a nice person, it's like almost comes off as sarcastic. So it's even more, mean, you know? So yeah, it was an absolute blast playing Quan and I think it was a it was the perfect amount of like getting me out of my comfort zone as well because although the character is like this big martial artist and I've always before this role, I've always been worried about like getting typecasted into only doing martial arts because it's been such a big part of my life. And I think Cobra Kai has helped me accept like, okay, this is a part of my identity that I need to embrace as well. Because, I kind of had this phase where I was only doing martial arts and like no acting. And then I cut out martial arts cold turkey almost and only did acting. And then now I was trying to, it's the Miyagi stuff, finding my
yeah.
balance. Um, which I shouldn't say because I'm Cobra Kai, but
Hey, stop. Hey, you can sit at the Miyagi-Do table too.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, it's like for this character to be from Korea, speak English in accented English, and speak in Korean when yes, I am Korean, but I am not fluent in Korean, so it was very like nerve-wracking in that sense. And for the character to be very different from who I am as a person, as at least I'd hope that people would think that I'm different from Kwon. Because I hope I'm not that mean, but yeah,
You're
it
not.
was thank you.
You're not like when I was told about Quan,
Uh-huh.
I didn't really have like, oh, I bet you the actor's gonna be like this. But when
Uh-huh.
I went up to you guys and introduced myself, nothing but smiles. You guys stood up and was
Uh-huh.
very respectful, was very polite. I'm like, these guys are the black guys. You gotta be kidding me. Come on. So
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was in for, but I just saw that little bit
Uh-huh.
from the scene that you guys did. And I
Hmm.
did walk um out of that the set
Hmm.
with a little spoiler in mind. So I was like, oh, I know something that happened. So I was waiting for it all of part one.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's the stuff about Tori, so I was
Yeah.
like,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah. To
Yeah.
see it play out, I go, nobody ever would have guessed that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so as we get ready to wrap up, I'll have a few more questions about Quan.
Mhm.
You did reveal to me before we got started about an ad lib, and I think it was like one of my favorite moments of Quan
Mm.
when like this guy is fighting his own, like colleagues. Like these guys are
Mhm.
all on the same team, and
Mhm.
he challenges them. And it's the moment where Min Sok is that one of the that's played by Cowie? Is that
Yeah.
his name?
Callie,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Cowie and Sung Ho's characters,
Mhm.
where Kwan's just like, he put his hand up, it's like,
Oh
where you going?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you could talk about that, because I think that is just that just feels so Kwan. Just that little bit we get like that's yeah, he would do something like that. I'm not
Yeah.
done with you guys. Just
Yeah,
kick his
yeah.
ass. Like you guys are here with him, so you guys are going down too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think this fight really kind of defined this character for me as well. I had like ideas on how I wanted to do this, but I don't know, for me, you don't never really know until you do it. I think for me, like that's kind of the magic of creativity. It's kind of just the spontaneity of it. But what I loved was when Don Lee, our amazing fight coordinator, and Ken Bearfield, our stunt coordinator, were showing me the fight. Oh, and my amazing stunt double, Dante Ha. I call him
Uh-huh.
Hyung as like big brother in Korean because he's
Okay.
Korean as well. Um, they when they showed me the fight and taught me it, Dante already brought so much swag to the character that I kind of like, you know, nitpicked off of, I
Uh-huh.
not nitpicked, but nibbled off of
Emulated.
and used a little, and like that just goes to show how much of a veteran he is on what he does because he knows how to put character into the movement as well. Um, and what we loved was like as we were figuring out the blocking, they needed us to like circle around, and for me it kind of felt stale if I didn't say anything. And like I think I remember like Don and I kind of thought of that moment together and it kind of just came out naturally where it's like I just kicked the crap out of this kid and you guys are going to try to help him up. No, where do you think you're going? Like that's what I say in Korean. And I'm like, no, 빨리 wa ba, like come on, go. Like hurry up. Let's go. Um that's kind of like my influence from watching the K dramas all over the years and just like um I think just this is exactly what I was loving so much was I'd spent most of my professional career so far being a stunt double, which was amazing, but as stunt doubles, we don't get to put those character moments in. Um, we can suggest them, but we don't get to like put them in. So for this time I was really able to like, do that and to bounce off of the stunt department and Ralph and everyone there and the creators, the big three, and just to kind of like create this character on set. It was a bunch of fun. And also at that moment I gained a lot of confidence because like I was just trying to stretch how far are they gonna let me like improv with until they tell me to pull back. And they just kept saying yes. And from what Ralph has told me and just like the other whoever's watched the fight, they say that they love that moment, and I'm glad that you love that moment too, because yeah, that was a very spontaneous moment, in the moment, like it just came kind of came in the moment, and I think those
Felt right,
are
like
kind
you
of
said.
sometimes the best moments. Yeah.
It just it was perfect because it felt right. Like that's just you're right. It would have been stale, just like, oh, okay, what's going on? And so
Right.
like it just it's a good fill in the gap moment.
Hmm.
So you kind of teased a little bit. Was there any other um improvising
Hmm.
outtakes that you could think of? But also you mentioned how like you're not so fluent in Korean. Was there
Yeah.
somebody that was there to kind of help you guys with dialogue?
Yes, we had a Korean interpreter on set, but I don't know if Daniel talked about this. We were both really scared because we were given the script in English and it was just italicized and we were supposed to translate it ourselves. We were terrified because when you translate to Korean, you can translate it 100 different ways.
Right.
So if he translates it differently from me, it sounds like we're not even having the same conversation. So yeah, we actually like found each other on the plane. We were like, this is the only other Asian kid that's in first class, like that's flying to Atlanta. He's probably with production too. So yeah, we met that night and like ran through our lines and like checked with our parents to make sure we were saying stuff that actually made sense. Um, but yeah, we had the Korean interpreter on set who was very, very helpful. And he actually helped me with another improv line in there where when Yoon kicks Kwon in the back, he says, "Dakari tashi waso." And Dakari means like kind of teacher's pet in Korean, but it's not, it's one of those slang terms that doesn't have like a direct like
Translation.
translation.
You're right.
So saying Dakari tashi waso means like, oh, you came back, teacher's pet, kind of like, and it was perfect because I used that line earlier in that episode, so I call him that again. Um, and then I think at the end too, when I'm like, "This is mine" in Korean, that was also improvised. So yeah, I mean there was a lot. I think the script supervisor probably didn't like it because I would improvise so much on this set, but it was amazing how much freedom they gave me, and they just kind of like, I mean, they would keep rolling, and for me, like if you don't say cut, like I'm just gonna kind of keep going. And with a character like Quan, it feels like not I'm not doing him justice if I don't let him loose a little bit. So he's kind of like a wild wolf. So I
Oh man.
feel like you
I
kind
wish
of
I
gotta
was
let
there. I would
him
have been like, "Hey, Brandon, try this. This
loose.
belongs to me." And just get Yuden's face. Oh
Yeah, yeah.
man. Oh
Um,
man, I can't wait for part two. It's like part one isn't even out yet for a lot of the people at this point.
but
Um,
yeah, no, I will say part two, that's what I'm saying. I feel like we should do this again because I'll have way more improvised stories that kind of came on the
I'll be
on-set
here.
magic for part two. So yeah.
I will be here and have the request ready to send.
Sweet, man.
Anything else you like to share as we end this here? Also, like I don't know if you
Uh-huh.
like welcome the interaction on social media, but
Uh-huh.
clearly I see a lot of people have been showing you a lot of love.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, like thank you for having me on and thank you for all the amazing Cobra Kai fans for being so welcoming again. And I mean, at this time, like I said, only the trailer has come out, so I hope that by the time you're listening to us, you're enjoying season 6 so far. I mean, I'm biased because I'm in this season, but I feel like if I even if I weren't in this season as a fan, knowing what happens, I could confidently say that this is the best season yet. So I'm super stoked for everyone to see parts 2 and 3 as well. I'm super stoked to see parts 2 and 3 and one. I haven't even seen one yet, so I'm super stoked for everything. And yeah, man, thank you for having me on, and thank you to the Cobra Kai fans. And yeah.